A day before polls open on Super Tuesday in 15 states, including Massachusetts, the Supreme Court ruled that states cannot invoke the 14th Amendment to block Donald Trump from appearing on the ballot, deciding only Congress has that power. But right here in the Bay State, there's mounting pressure against a Biden-Trump rematch, with protesters from the left urging Democrats to vote no preference. And Republican nominee Nikki Haley made a rare campaign stop in dark blue Massachusetts, pitching herself as a conservative alternative to Trump.
Our kids deserve to know what normal feels like.
Well, Haley spoke with GBH News politics reporter Katie Landon, who joins me now. Hi, Katie.
Hey, Crystal.
So it's very rare that someone like a Nikki Haley actually stumps in Massachusetts. So talk to me about what that conversation was like.
Yeah, it's, she's in the final days before Super Tuesday. She's been kind of crisscrossing the country. She was in Maine, in Vermont, I think in Texas today, really trying to make the point that she's still in this race despite Donald Trump being well ahead in delegate counts, and that her supporters do need to turn out to the polls. She wants them to keep up the faith in her campaign, and that's kind of her message, is that every state matters. And, she said Saturday night out in Needham that basically you don't get to complain in the general election if you don't vote in the primary.
Do you think that bump in D.C. really helped fuel that thinking?
I mean, maybe, right? Because we haven't seen her claim a primary victory before. So they're certainly going to be looking for momentum coming out of that D.C. win. The Trump campaign is looking to use that win to show that she is the, D.C. insider candidate, which can be a good thing, can be a bad thing, depending on what you want for the Republican nominee, what you're looking for in this primary, and what's driving you to vote.
Well, speaking of every state matters, we do have some sound from your interview with Nikki Haley.
We think every state matters. We think Massachusetts matters. And when you look at the state of our country, I mean, our country is in disarray. The world is on fire. And there's never been a time where we needed a new generational leader that leaves the negativity and the baggage behind and really starts focusing on solutions for the future for the American people.
So as folks head into Super Tuesday, I'm thoughtful about this, I guess, force that Nikki Haley is in and of itself, in that she's still in this race where so many people dropped out. Right? And then, on the other hand, as we mentioned in the introduction to this segment, you have folks saying, don't vote for anyone, vote no preference, making a statement about the conflict happening in Gaza. And it seems like voters have a lot to think about when they walk into the polls.
Yeah, and, most of the voters in Massachusetts, almost 2/3, are unenrolled. So the first thing they'll have to think about is what ballot they want to vote on. If they're not a member of a party, if they want to vote in the Republican primary, the Democratic primary, they can pull a Libertarian ballot as well. So on the Democratic side, there has been an active push, as you say, to encourage people to vote no preference, to show their dissatisfaction with the way the Biden administration has handled the war between Israel and Hamas. So that's something that, election officials are watching too. The state party will probably be watching that on the Democratic side, because if that crosses a certain threshold, if enough people do make that no preference vote, that'll affect how many of the state's delegates go to Joe Biden. Because theoretically, if enough people do vote that way, some of those delegates, instead of going to Joe Biden, would be no preference delegates.
That's interesting. And then I'm also thoughtful of your Vice President Kamala Harris on the Pettus Bridge recently, calling for a temporary ceasefire in that conflict. What kind of sway will that have with voters, you think?
That's really an interesting question, and it's always tough to sit here the day before Election Day try and guess what's going to happen one way or another. But the people who are hoping to push those no preference votes are really describing that as a result of the pressure that's been put on the White House so far. They say it shows that the movement is working. We saw in Michigan the uncommitted ballot option was the mechanism there. So they're looking to kind of keep that pressure going on the Biden administration.
Yeah, it looks like, from your reporting, New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu told us that, a top Haley ally on the campaign trail, he said that he wants folks to show the rest of this country that we ain't over by a long shot. Meaning the Republican Party, I'm guessing, right?
Meaning the Haley campaign.
The Haley campaign,
which, and Haley supporters do see this as a chance to stake out a new direction for the party, or a return to an old direction, if you want to look at it that way, the kind of pre-Trump Republican Party values. Chris Sununu's take was basically that Massachusetts is a place where voters can change the narrative, can surprise the media and the pollsters, and really come out strongly for Nikki Haley. Of course, she would have to keep Trump to under 50% of the vote to get any delegates here. But a strong showing here could be symbolic for her, depending on, all the other states that vote on Tuesday, where those things go.
Yeah. Do you think that in terms of in your reporting and talking folks who might have been out there at the event in Needham and things like that, that people just feel kind of overwhelmed by what's happening in general with Nikki Haley, Donald Trump, and all of the court cases connected to him, some of the things that are happening around reproductive rights and things like that? I mean, it seems like voters are in, a tough spot when they go and they have to choose.
Absolutely. And I think generally, we've heard that there's not a lot of enthusiasm necessarily around the choices people have. I think, as you mentioned, Nikki Haley is the only remaining non-Trump Republican candidate after, there were several other candidates who've dropped out, and it's kind of winnowed just down to those two on the Republican side. And then on the Democratic side, it's, we've got a couple candidates in there and the no preference option. So it is, I think, a lot of things wrapped up in that one choice that voters will ultimately make on Tuesday.
We were talking about how the votes break down, folks who are uncommitted and things like that. The Democratic primary results in Michigan, which we have right here, had just over 100,000 uncommitted votes, 13% of the vote, and received 2 delegates: Joe Biden, 81.2%, uncommitted, 13.2%, Marianne Williamson, 3%, and Dean Phillips, 2.7%. So this is interesting to me, because if all of that's happening can affect, the populace there in Michigan, Joe Biden being from Michigan, it seems like, you can't necessarily call any state for sure.
Absolutely. And I mean, this is a state that has a strong ties in its Democratic Party to Joe Biden. He historically does very well here. He's gotten a lot of folks from Massachusetts involved in his administration or his campaign. So deep roots there, but certainly nothing that can be counted out. It's going to be really interesting to see what that big block of independent or unaffiliated voters do here in Massachusetts. One thing that the top elections official, Bill Galvin, pointed out today is that since the start of the year, there have been around 13,000 Democrats who have unenrolled, who have dropped their party registration, potentially because they want to be able to pull a Republican or a Libertarian ballot in this election. And then there's been another 2,000 Democrats who have switched their party registration to Republican. So we might see some former Democrats voting in the Republican primary. We might see some, we'll certainly see a lot of independents voting in both party primaries. And Nikki Haley, too, has said she's trying to build a coalition of people who feel like the status quo isn't working for them, who feel Republicans who feel left behind by their party, Democrats who feel left behind by their party, and independents who don't, see either as the answer. So there'll be a lot to watch within that big slice of the voting population in Massachusetts.
Yeah, and in closing the loop with your interview, back to that again, I mean, did it seem like, I imagine the room was full of her supporters, but did it surprise you at the vehemence of their support for Nikki Haley at a time where Donald Trump is also the conservative nominee in so many other states?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's worth noting that there's also a really strong Trump base here in Massachusetts among the registered members of the Republican Party. So I think there's going to be a lot of passion on both sides. There's definitely a lot of people who want Nikki Haley to emerge as the winner on Tuesday, but there's also plenty of people who have been with Donald Trump since the last 2 elections and into this one as well.
Do you think Massachusetts is going to become sort of a purple state anytime soon?
I mean, it depends on how you define it, right? Because there's plenty, if you look at a map, kind of the center of the state does tend to vote red. It's not blue throughout Massachusetts, but, you know, we're probably still going to end up a blue state in the general election, and we do have Democrats controlling all the statewide and congressional office, both branches of the state legislature. So I think it's safe to say a blue state is where the power is, but voters have many of their own views beyond that.
All right, Katie Lynn, and we'll see what happens when folks pull that lever or really fill out the circle.
Yeah, bubble that in.
Bubble it in. Thank you.
Thank you.